Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and today we got some really good news, but then also some bad news at the same time. Again, I feel like this information is very important for anybody who's looking forward to the upcoming Xbox Developer Direct later this week, because there are some high expectations based off some recent rumors that's been going around. So we're going to get into all of that today, plus plenty more. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's go get right into things, though, starting off with Life is Strange Reunion. Yes, the announcement and new trailer released today, and as rumored, we are going to see the return of Max and Chloe, the two that fans fell in love with all of those years ago. Now, as I said the other day, though, I do feel like they need to prove a lot with this next game, just because the Life is Strange series, never really reached the same high as the original title did. Now, that's not to say that the newer entries are bad per se, just that they aren't as necessarily as beloved as the original title. So the idea of them going back to the original fan favorite characters, I think makes a lot of sense in this case. And just based on the trailer, the emotions and stakes are very high in this game. So I think this could potentially be the Life is Strange sequel that fans have been asking for. And here's the thing. You're not going to have to wait all that long to play it yourself, because its release date is officially slated for March 26, except for, oddly enough, the Switch 2. Now, that has been an issue early on for the Switch 2 because Nintendo, for whatever reason, held back dev kits, which has caused a number of staggered Switch 2 releases. So you never know, we could get a port a little bit later on, but let me know what you all think. Are you a fan of Life is Strange, and are you excited to see the return of Max and Chloe? Now, speaking of the Switch 2, today's theme for this video is good news, bad news. And the bad news for Nintendo fans is that, again, unfortunately, Life is Strange Reunion won't launch for the Switch 2, or at least that we know of so far. But the good news is that a native version of Kingdom Hearts, the all-in-one package, is rumored for the Switch 2. Yeah, this comes from Nash Weedle and Attack the Backlog. You can see Attack the Backlog's tweet here, which reads, "I can now say Nash Weedle and I spoke about this behind the scenes, and I was able to corroborate his statement of Kingdom Hearts Integrum coming to Switch 2 with my own source, who told me it is coming to Switch 2 indeed. Nash does it again." Now, that's kind of my issue when it comes to this leak, though. I mean, I would love to believe it. I am a big fan of the Kingdom Hearts series, and I feel like it's a perfect match for the Switch 2, but I don't necessarily view Nash Weedle as a golden standard for leaks. I mean, I know some people really trust him, which is why we're talking about it today, and, he has gotten some information correct in the past, but he's also been very hit or miss from what I've seen. So all I'm going to say is to take this information with a grain of salt. To be optimistic, though, the fact that this leak was corroborated on, that I would say is a good sign. And I also feel like it makes perfect sense for Square Enix to finally do this. They have Kingdom Hearts coming right around the corner, which, hopefully that's going to release sooner rather than later. But an all-in-one collection for Nintendo fans would be a great way to catch them up and to increase the potential sales numbers for the fourth entry. I mean, I understand that Square Enix released a cloud-based version for the Switch 1 a few years back, but I can't imagine that was very successful for them, whereas a native release has a lot more potential. Oh, and Expedition 33 continues its breakout success. Yeah, there's no slowing down its hype train, no matter how much certain people tries to. But yeah, it is now officially the most awarded Game of the Year game of all time. You can see here the top 3 most awarded games of all time are Expedition 33 at 436 Game of the Year awards. It just surpassed Elden Ring, which has 429, and then The Last of Us Part 2 with 326, which is still just absolutely baffling to me. I don't understand how it won so many awards, considering how polarizing it is among fans. That's a game that's very much on a different page, it seems like, when it comes to critics. But nonetheless, I can easily agree with Elden Ring and Expedition 33. I do believe these are all-time great games, and regardless of who has more awards, both easily stands tall within their respected genre. Both of these games will inspire new games for years and years and years to come. And just big congrats to both studios. It's just an incredible feat, and I think especially for Expedition 33, given that it was in development by a very small independent studio that was actually learning on the job just how to develop games in the first place. So this is a crazy success story, all things considered. But if this was just their first game, what I'll say is I can only imagine what they're going to come up with next with more experience under their belt. So just big congrats to Sandfall. This was very well deserved. All right, now let's just go and talk about Xbox, their upcoming developer direct, and the likelihood of Bethesda showing up with some Fallout games. Now, if you watched my video a few days back, then you probably know that rumors exploded over the weekend that Fallout 3 Remastered and Fallout New Vegas Remastered were going to shadow drop very soon, and possibly even with an imminent release. Now, there were various reasons that fans took to that rumor, but most recently, it was because seemingly there were some things happening with Fallout on Steam's backend. Again, go watch my previous video if you want to hear more about that, but like I said then, I feel like some people are maybe setting themselves up for disappointment. A lot of people have kind of come to this conclusion that one or maybe even both of these remasters are going to be announced at the upcoming Xbox Developer Direct later this week, which personally I just don't foresee. The thing is that Bethesda still operates as their own publisher, and they do have a different marketing strategy, which is something that we saw last year with the announcement for Oblivion Remastered. They just randomly dropped a live stream in April and said, well, here you go. So that's kind of why I don't expect Bethesda to show up at the Xbox Developer Direct later this week. But however, that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't announce something later this year. And that brings me to the new information that we got today. So this comes from Jez Corden over on Windows Central, where he said, I'm told that the Steam listings for Fallout 3 and New Vegas are showing some activity due to updates for localized versions of the existing games and aren't to do with any impending shadow drop for Fallout 3 and New Vegas remakes/remasters. Indeed, I'm told Fallout 3 and New Vegas remakes aren't exactly quote-unquote imminent, and you shouldn't expect them in the near term. I'm still trying to lock down more detailed timings on when we should see them appear, but the impression I'm getting is that we'll see Fallout 3 Remastered before Fallout New Vegas. And based on everything that we know, that's really my expectation as well. There was a leaked document from years ago during the FTC versus Microsoft Activision lawsuit that Bethesda was planning a Fallout 3 remaster. So unless something changed, then it's only logical that its development is likely ahead of the New Vegas remaster, which is something that we've only recently heard about. However, the good news here is that Jez reconfirmed that both of these remasters do in fact exist. So that part of the rumor is still in fact true. Fallout fans can rejoice, you can rest easy knowing that they've been greenlit and they're currently in development. So their existence really isn't the question here. It's more so about when they're actually going to release. And interestingly, he doesn't seem to know that exact detail. Based on his information, he just understands that they're not going to release quote-unquote imminently, as recent rumors have kind of claimed online. So, once again, don't expect a shadow drop later this week at the Xbox Developer Direct. If you are, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. But, with that said, his information doesn't necessarily rule out the idea of a 2026 launch, or at least for Fallout 3 Remastered. It is Bethesda's 40th anniversary after all, and I would like to think that they have big plans to celebrate that milestone, and a Fallout 3 Remaster would be a great way for them to do that. However, it does kind of feel like 2027 is very much on the table. So we're just going to have to wait and see how all of this shapes up, but Jez did mention that he's still trying to figure out its release date, so who knows? Maybe we'll get some more information sooner rather than later, and if we do, of course, I'll let you know. All right, now one more thing before we go, though, because we got some new Game Pass games to talk about, and, well, you can see them here. The second wave of January includes Death Stranding, Roadcraft, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, Anno Mutationum, Drop Duchy, My Sims, Space Marine 2, Indica, and Final Fantasy II. So, really, I'd say this is actually a very good lineup with a lot of quality. I mean, right away, I love the Death Stranding series. I mean, they're very Kojima, they have a lot of atmosphere to them, and the story is absolutely incredible. Yes, it takes a while for the first game to get going, but once it does, I think it's just a surreal gaming experience. I definitely recommend it, and it's really the perfect time for Xbox fans to jump in because they recently fixed a save problem that it had when it first launched. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is also another easy recommendation if you like old school action platformers. It's really one of the best of its kind from recent years, and I can also say the same thing about Talos Principle 2 and the puzzle genre. It's a very unique puzzle game, and I mean, if you've ever played Portal, and if you like that series, then Talos Principle is an easy recommendation for you. They do have a lot in common, though Talos Principle is more on the philosophical side of things and less comedy-driven. I mean, even Space Marine 2, it's got some Gears of War inspiration behind it, which, I mean, I assume Xbox fans are going to love that idea. So there you go, just a lot here to play, and I'd say this is overall a pretty good month for Game Pass subscribers. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.